Did you know we go through a life transition about once every 18 months? We'll average around 36 of them in our adult lifetime, and around 3 to 5 of them will be lifequakes, major disruptions to our lives that can make us rethink things fundamentally. In this episode, we'll be exploring how we can all get better at handling these life transitions, big and small.
Welcome to the Gen XZ Exchange. I'm Chris Perkins, Gen X parent, now 50-something empty nester.
And I'm Lily Perkins, Gen Z career explorer. We swap insights on career choices, work and life in general.
So whether you're a Gen X parent trying to figure out midlife's challenges,
or a Gen Z young professional or student figuring out adulthood, you're in the right place.
So, Lily, if those stats are right, by my estimation, in your 4 years of adult life, from 18 to 22, you should have had 3 transitions by now.
Yeah, probably. Sounds about right.
I'd say your transitions have been moving away from home, 2 relationships starting and ending, a few different jobs, and changing your degree course halfway through. So that's about 6 so far. You're achieving above average in the life transition department already.
I'm a high achiever, or maybe I am just off of the rails and changing my life every 10 seconds. Yes, that probably sounds about right. So then, if my calculations are right, throughout your adult life, you should have had what, like 25?
Or thereabouts, I guess, over the course of 37 years of being an adult. I would say I'm almost certainly overachieving in the life transitions department too.
Yeah.
I look back at my LinkedIn profile. I've had 15 jobs in that time.
Whoa.
I've moved house 6 times. I've moved to the States and back. I've had 2 redundancies, lost a close friend, and lost my dad. So that is over 25 already.
Yeah.
And not to mention, we all went through the pandemic, which definitely counts as a major life quake for everyone.
Yeah. Life quake, life tsunami, life volcano explosion, life acid rain, just all of them.
It was a big one.
That was pretty bad. So there we go. So in terms of all the life transition stuff, where is all this coming from? Where are the stats from? Give me the rundown.
So in terms of transitions, someone called William Bridges first published a book called Transitions in 1980. And he said every transition goes through 3 stages. An ending, the neutral zone, and then a new beginning. And I came across this book a few years ago. It's probably my favorite approach to dealing with life changes. So to transition through something, you have to mark the ending of the thing you're leaving behind. So your last day in a job, saying goodbye to a house, burning all your ex's clothes, whatever it might be. Then before you can fully move on to the new thing, you have a period of time in this neutral zone. So you're neither in the old situation or the new one. You're in between, which can be a bit weird.
Yeah.
So this could be really quick, or it can take a while. So like when I was looking for a job after a layoff, it took 4 months. Or when you've been between relationships, you're in this kind of middle stage.
So it's like a stage of like stagnancy, basically.
Not necessarily stagnation. Some people refer to it as the messy middle.
Right.
Or the fertile void. So you just have to accept that you've got to figure things out, even though you don't know exactly what the new thing will be. And then this transition ends with your new beginning. So it would be like, for example, when you left school and were going to start uni, you didn't know exactly what that was going to be like. You knew it was happening, but you had that time in the middle. That makes sense?
That uncertainty. Yeah, it does. And it's funny what you're saying. It reminds me of, to quote my favourite person ever, it reminds me of like a Lana Del Rey quote where she's talking about how she believes for all the good stuff to come in, you have to like firmly close the door, lock the door, throw away the key, chill for a bit. And then that's when the good stuff comes in from the other door. So that's kind of what she was describing there. There we go.
Lana's absolutely got it. Yeah.
Exactly, as usual.
So more recently, I read a book called Life is in the Transitions by a guy called Bruce Feiler. And he started to interview his dad to get his life story when his dad got Parkinson's. And he found that so interesting, he went off and interviewed 225 other people across America for their life stories.
Oh.
And when he compiled everything he learned, he realized we all go through some kind of transition about every 12 to 18 months. And what he and his team identified from all these life stories was there are 52 kinds of regular transitions. So jobs, relationships, moving house, changing a belief about yourself, getting injured or getting an illness, those kind of things.
Right.
Most of the time, we get through them absolutely fine. And so we build the story of our life based on these experiences. So this will be interesting for you just starting out. But how do you think your life is going to go broadly? What's your expectation?
Oh, good question. And also a good way to trigger an existential crisis. But probably, if I had to take a guess, I'm gonna graduate uni, maybe go and do a bit of traveling, and then probably, hopefully, end up with a job. Probably bounce about a few different jobs throughout my career, buy a house, hopefully, maybe, and then like retire and all that stuff. Maybe get married, maybe have kids. Kind of this standard idea I think most people have probably. But now that I've said that, I've jinxed it, and I'm going to end up like having some kind of like crazy life altering thing.
Not at all. But yeah, you have this idea that there is a kind of standard pattern to life.
A template, right? Kind of,
yeah.
Yeah.
And if you go back a while, sort of Victorian times, they would draw out things like the stages of man, and they would have it sort of going up a series of steps, kind of to middle age, and then, back down to old age when it's all over. And we know that idea is wrong. But there was basically this idea that life is linear, right? You go on this sort of standard path, but that's not necessarily the case, right? We have all constructed a narrative for our life based on the experience that we're living. The thing is, every now and again, something happens to completely derail how we think our life is going to go. And that's one of these lifequake things.
Yeah.
So we all experienced the pandemic, which was one. Actually, just about the first time in modern history that the entire world experienced a lifequake all at the same time.
Yeah.
And these lifequakes can send us into a bit of a panic because we don't know if we can get our narrative back on track, or whether we need to totally rethink what our future's going to be like.
Yeah, that's scary.
Can you see how that works with these big life-changing events?
Definitely. So it's like it totally throws you off your game. And then you're like, okay, can I continue on the path that I'm on, or am I going to need to basically shift everything else now? And that's quite an overwhelming, scary thought.
Yeah. But the key thing, what comes out in Bruce's book, is whilst everyone thinks their life is going to go in this linear, probably sort of ascending pattern.
It doesn't.
It's up and down. Everyone experiences those up and downs. And what he found from speaking to people about all the lifequakes that they went through is they're either collective or personal, and they're voluntary or involuntary.
Right.
So the pandemic or a recession is a collective and involuntary lifequake we just have to get through.
Yeah.
Getting laid off or getting seriously ill is personal and it's involuntary. Whereas walking out of a job or deciding to leave your partner is personal and voluntary.
Got you. Yeah.
And they looked at all the lifequakes all these 225 people had been through. And what came out was only 8% of them are collective and involuntary. 38% of them are personal and voluntary, and 49% of them are personal and involuntary. So stuff is going to happen to you that you have no control over.
That's bad news for all the control freaks out there, I'm afraid.
It is, but, it's a fact of life.
It's the
we
reality.
Just have to,
you just got to
it.
accept it.
So you are probably going to experience between 3 and 5 of these things in your lifetime. They last an average of 5 years. Not necessarily the event, but just kind of getting over what happened to you. So if you think about when people talk about going through a divorce or dealing with a serious illness, it can take an average of 5 years to kind of come to terms with that fact.
It's like the ripples from the earthquake.
Exactly. That's a good way of thinking of it. Yeah. So you are likely to spend between 15 and 25 years of your life going through these big transitions.
Wow. That's quite a lot of time. I'm trying to work out mentally when my last big transition was so I can like plan ahead and like safety pad my house or something.
Well, I think the pandemic was the one we've all just gone through.
Yeah.
You don't know what it's going to be or when it's going to happen.
Yep.
But the thing is to be prepared for the fact that it is going to happen.
Yeah.
And that 5 years is only an average. Sometimes you might be through them in a few months or a year or so. But it can be a big shock and then you move on. So bad stuff is going to happen. That's just life.
Yeah.
But the good news is, in all these stories he heard, he identified a toolkit we can all use to get better at dealing with these big disruptions. And we'll put a link to his TED Talk that summarizes the book in the show notes. We probably don't have time to cover them all in detail, but would you like to know what the main tools are that'll help you get better at dealing with these big transitions when they come?
100,000,000%, obviously, because now I'm scared.
Okay. So first, you have to accept it.
Yep.
So these things happen. It's almost certain you're going to have to deal with a few. There's really no point resisting them. You've just got to accept it. So remember Grandad's motto, this too shall pass.
Yep, exactly.
Whether it's bad or good, it's just a phase that you go through.
Yep.
Did you know that both lottery winners and paraplegics, people that have lost the use of their legs,
Oh, I know about this. Yeah, this is so cool.
they both return to their baseline level of happiness about a year after the event?
Yep, it's so interesting, but that's such a perfect like summary of the whole "this too shall pass" thing because your brain just gets used to it and adjusts.
Yeah. Now,
So-
those are, those two events, either losing the use of your legs or winning the lottery, you could say are lifequakes.
Yeah.
And you'd think people would either be really devastated by them or, really overjoyed. Something
Over the
super
moon.
good or
Yeah.
really bad happens. But about a year later, you are just as happy as you were before the good or bad thing.
Yeah.
So when a lifequake happens, a really useful thing to remember is the very fact that you are here means you have a 100% success rate in dealing with all the transitions and lifequakes in your life so far.
Oh, isn't that nice, actually? Yeah.
Right, we all got through the pandemic, right? I mean, not everyone
Yep.
did, but those of us that are still here, we got through it. right?
Survivors.
What could be
Yep.
worse than that?
Yep.
So next, you have to mark the ending of your life as it was. Like actually create a ritual of some sort and say goodbye to it.
Yep.
So these are the big transitions, right? So life isn't going to be quite the same from this point on. So you draw a line under what was.
Yep.
So can you think of when you might have done this in some way? Maybe when you left home or after a relationship breakup?
Yeah, definitely like leaving home was probably a big one. And that was a bit of a big like emotional whirlwind for me because it was like once you've moved out, I mean, it's possible that you could move back home at some point, but it would never be the same as when you're a child growing up and, you've got all your friends from your hometown there and like your mum's cooking your dinner every night. It's never going to be that same way. So I think when I moved out, it was very much like this is the end of that chapter of my life. And now it's like up to me to go and make a new life for myself. So that's probably like the best example because it's probably kind of the first time I'd experienced something big like that.
Yeah, and it helps, right?
If we're talking about the drawing a line under it thing, do you remember I sent you guys that really sad Taylor Swift song to listen to in the car back home, and then we were all crying.
We were in bits.
That was very much like a ritual to be like, bye.
Yeah,
My
this is
life
it. I'm
different now.
moving on. Yeah.
Yep.
So you have to draw that period of your life to a close. One of the interesting things Bruce found is when you don't mark what's happened to you, your body does it for you. So somehow it knows, and if you don't kind of mourn for what was, the body will find a way to make you like mourning for the job loss or a relationship.
Yeah.
And one thing that a lot of people find helpful to kind of mark that ending is to keep a memento from their old life.
Oh.
So that's something to bear in mind. You've got to kind of draw a line under it. Next, you have to shed the old life, like shed the old routine, the old mindset, instead create a new attitude or learn some new skills that you'll need. So this is kind of like Bridges' neutral zone. Like you're going into this void. You don't know what's coming next. You have to get lost in the wilderness a bit there.
Yep.
Here's one I bet you've done. You know how animals molt their skin or their coat? I bet you've got a new wardrobe or a new look coming out of a transition.
I was just going to say that. It's like the thing about, like, I know it's such a common one with some of my friends as well, like gone through a breakup or like not got the results they wanted or whatever and start crashing out about it, and then like it's 3 o'clock in the morning, I've been listening to sad music all night, I think I'll cut myself a fringe. And also after I've had a bottle of wine, or I'm going to put a new colour through my hair, or I'm going to go and spend all my savings on Vinted. So I just knew you were going to say that because I've done it, all my friends have done it, and yeah, you've hit the nail on the head there basically. But that's a good way to do it.
We need to do something to shed that old
and
life.
it does make you feel, even if it's like a shit haircut, it does make you feel a bit like, oh, I'm not that person anymore.
Exactly.
So that is a good one.
That is exactly it.
Yeah, it's like a physical manifestation of that basically.
What comes next, I think, is actually quite a fun one.
Yay.
And that is try new things.
Yay.
So what Bruce found is when people are at rock bottom, often they become incredibly creative. They paint, they sculpt, they write, sing, dance. It's like creativity feeds off the chaos. And here's a really interesting stat. If you're going through a layoff, when people wrote about their feelings of being laid off and the stress it was causing, a quarter of them found a new job within 3 months, compared to 5% of the people who didn't write about how they felt.
Wow, that's crazy.
And after 7 months, 57% of the writers had jobs and only 20% of the non-writers had them. So express yourself when you're right in the thick of it.
Yeah, I'm such a big advocate for having a little journal. And
Yeah, you talked about that
writing
before.
down all your feelings, putting pen to paper, because it gets it out of your head, first of all. I can't remember who it is. There's this lady with a podcast talking about doing like brain dumps, and I am, a big believer in all that stuff. So it's nice that I am backed up by science and studies then.
Writing, painting, like taking up some form of creative expression, it really helps when you're in this kind of neutral phase.
And that's also how we've ended up with some of the best like heartbreak albums we've ever had, I imagine. So
exactly, yeah. Think about all the artists that have been in, quite dark places, and the work that they have then produced that's helped them sometimes come out of that.
And then
that
helped
spell.
millions of other people as a result.
Yeah.
So
that kind of bears out what Bruce had discovered. So the next tool is to share what you're going through with others. And I know you've done that with your friends in the bad times, and they've helped you through it. And sometimes it's nice when you've come home to us, even when like bad stuff is happening. So that's the next thing that helps you kind of get through this middle stage.
So could that also, so obviously community, friendships, family, could that also include like a counsellor, a therapist? Is it just being able to talk to anyone about it, really?
Yeah, I mean, it could be, but it doesn't need to be professional help. It's just share what you're feeling. So it could be a really trusted friend or a family member, but it's kind of just talk it through. And sometimes that helps you make sense of what you're going through. Yeah. So 2 more to go, which help you get through these life transitions. The next one is to launch or unveil your new self. So it doesn't have to be a big, grand act. So often when someone's experienced a big loss, they'll notice the first time that they really laugh at something properly. Yeah. And we'll take that as a moment that the kind of new version of them is emerging. Yeah. It can be the first time you do a really normal act. So like getting out of bed and walking for the first time, if you've just suffered a serious injury or major surgery, that is something to celebrate.
Oh, I'm getting actually quite emotional thinking about loads of people having moments like that. I'm such an empath. What can I say?
But again, it's an important
but it's nice.
part of the process.
As because you can think about them in your own life as well, when you've been like, oh, I've just like, you know, if you've broken up with someone and then you're like, oh, I went out with my pals and actually felt quite normal. That's quite it does feel like a big step in the right direction. It's nice. So you have to unveil that, you have to notice those things, and then
to launch yourself. Yeah.
Launch yourself, right. And then what's our last one?
Lastly, tell your new story. You write the next chapter. So your new narrative for life is what signals that you've moved on. So you can say to someone, I used to be that, then I went through this big life change, and now I'm this. You're kind of, announcing it. And that's kind of it.
Owning it, yeah.
It's not easy, but that is a tried and tested set of tools to get you through whatever life throws at you.
Nice. And that step could be like, if you're, again, going through a breakup, it could be like starting dating other people, or if you've got this new job, like actually stepping into your role. Is that basically what that means? Just beginning to actually like live life as that person.
So this is the new beginning.
Yeah.
As William Bridges described it, you are beginning this new version of you, having come through the transition. And we can all be absolutely sure we're going to have some of these lifequakes in our lifetime. You know, we could be in these transitionary phases for like 20 years in total. So it pays to work out how to have a plan to deal with them. You don't know what they are, when they're going to hit, but these are the tools that you can use to get through it. So you probably have at least a couple ahead of you.
I know, I'm trying to work. I think there will be ones based on the math. I'm scared.
Not necessarily. No, so this isn't a big lifequake every 18 months.
I know.
You know, that can be like, you know,
but it's averaging
a
out.
new flatmate, you know, is a transition or starting a new job. You know, they're all the sort of 52 transitions that we all have to deal with. And most of the time we can deal with them really well. When the big ones come along, that's what can kind of knock us sideways. And these are the tools that help you get through those big ones.
But I do actually feel a bit prepared for if a big one was to happen. I'm like, okay, well, I have to remember my steps here.
Yeah. So what have you taken from this in terms of how you might approach it differently whenever one does hit?
I think what you were saying about the acceptance part and not trying to resist, I think that is really important, because I can sometimes get a bit like anxious and jumpy and control freaky about, I can get worried about something big and scary in life happening, but you're right, the reality is something will happen at some point, and you don't need to be feeling like you're being hunted for sport. You can just say, if something does happen, I'm going to have to just accept it. But then also what you're saying, I like the part about when you're kind of like launching yourself, and like when you notice that you've like laughed for the first time in a long time, because actually we might all be like, you know, you're saying how the effects can last for 5 years. Like it might be that we're all kind of about to have like a little mini unveiling of ourselves. Like, I don't know, I just thought it was like a cute little thing to think about, because it's one of those things you don't notice until it happens. So I thought that was cute. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, I think it's about celebrating those little moments.
Yeah, the wins, the small wins.
Show that you are moving on, making progress. You know, so the first time, you know, you have a big laugh if you've just experienced some loss. The first time you do something really ordinary, maybe like coming down the stairs for breakfast, if you've been bedbound for weeks, you know, whatever it might be. Yeah. I think for me, it's the reminder that we are all living non-linear lives. No matter how much you plan, things are not going to go as you expect all the time. Life happens kind of out of the order that we think it's going to unfold in, and you've got to be ready for that. And anyone can apply these tools when the big disruptions hit. There's nothing crazily difficult about any of those. You just got to think, okay, here's what I need to do. I'm going to go through these 3 phases. It's just a natural part of the process, you know. So this idea that we're hit with these big changes and we have to kind of rethink our lives, well, we do to some extent, because, you know, you can't go back to the old you.
It's interesting that you mentioned Grandad's motto as well about this too shall pass. It also reminds me, I have like a pretty vivid memory of like freaking out about something when I was a child, and you saying to me, I think it's like I don't know who it's from, but it was about, is it Dale Carnegie maybe? And you were saying, is the thing you're worried about in your control? If so, yes, like do something about it then and stop worrying about it. Is the thing you're worrying about not in your control? And if it's not in your control, guess what? Like there's nothing you can do about it. So just accept it. So it's kind of like that.
It is. And that was a Dale Carnegie
thing. There we go, my memory.
Right. If there's nothing you can do about it, right, just let it go. There's no point
Follow
stressing
the
out
steps.
about it. Yeah. So all of that kind of stuff. Yeah. You know, these are going to happen to all of us. So save this episode and
I'm going to bookmark it.
When
I'm
you
going to
need
save it for later.
It helps.
And that was really good. If you have enjoyed this episode, which we hope you have, please take a minute to leave us a 5-star review, and you can write a little review as well if you fancy, because we really appreciate your feedback.
We do, yeah. And if you want to leave feedback for us in some other ways, then connect with us on LinkedIn or send us a message on SpeakPipe. All the links for that are in the show notes. One of the things we spoke about here is the importance of sharing these challenges with other people, and often that is with our friends. And in the next episode, we're going to be talking about the importance of friendships and how we can nurture those friendships and how we can be a good friend to others. So listen out for that one. But for now, thanks for listening to this episode of the Gen XZ Exchange.
Woo!